Hi everyone, so it is Monday the 26th of March and I believe it is actually the start of the World Autism Awareness Week, and it's basically just a week trying to raise awareness for autism. And so I thought today that for that very reason I am going to be sharing my story with you, because I was diagnosed with ASD August 2016, I want to say, and it took a long time to get there. I was 14. Was I 14? No, I was 15 when I was diagnosed. And I will get some statistics up for you now because I feel like that's a really good way to start this video off. And I will definitely be linking the National Autistic Society website down below as well. So if you have any questions or any queries about anything, you can always go there, because I'm not going to be able to answer some of your questions if you have any. So make sure to go and check that website out. As this video is kind of a bit of a weird one, I think maybe we should actually go through what autism is and kind of like everything like that first before I get into my story. So I'll do that first and then I'll get into my story. So what is autism? Autism is a lifelong developmental disability that affects how a person communicates and relates to other people and how they experience the world around them. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this particular thing because I know it might confuse some people, but there are people with severe autism where they are most likely non-verbal and don't really interact with the world very much. And I do actually know some, well, I don't actually personally know them, but I know someone who has a little brother that's at the very bottom of the spectrum, so their autism is very severe. But I am at the top of the spectrum, and that basically means I function a lot better and just a lot more better, I guess, with like social situations and things like that. I am high functioning, so that basically means that I function well with other people. There's Asperger's syndrome as well. It's basically a form of autism, and it's basically on the high end of the spectrum. And the autistic spectrum is quite big. You can get people at the very bottom, which are like very severe cases, and then people at the top where you don't really notice it, I guess. But those people do have autism, and there's actually one thing that really bugs me that people say a lot, and it's the fact that some people say everyone's a little bit autistic. I find that so offensive. I don't know why, but I really hate it. And you're basically saying that everyone's like me, and they're not. They are not. Everyone is different, and it really bugs me. So just think about what you're saying before you say it. Okay, so I have some facts and statistics here. I'm basically just going to pick and read a couple of them, but I will be leaving a link down below to the actual facts, so you can read all of them. The first fact is that autism is much more common than many people think. There are around 700,000 people on the autistic spectrum in the UK. That's more than 1 in 100. If you include their families, autism is a part of daily life for 2.8 million people. That's a lot of people, and that is just the UK. There are going to be many more people around the world that are going to be autistic, and it affects their family as well. It doesn't just affect the autistic person, it affects others around them. The second fact is that autism doesn't just affect children. Autistic children grow up to be autistic adults. You don't ever grow out of autism or anything like that. You just become better at dealing with it, I guess. Fact number 3 is autism is a hidden disability. You can't always tell if someone is autistic, which is very true, because I think I've had this said to me before, but I've known some people to say, you don't look autistic, and that's honestly also very offensive. Don't say that. You can't see it. It is a hidden disability. And to be honest, I don't really class it as a disability. It is a part of my life. I have been autistic all of my life. It has made me the person who I am, and it's made me the person I am today. And if there was ever a cure, and if someone ever came up with a cure for autism, I would not go forward with it, because it's such a big part of me, and I don't want to lose that. I never want to lose that, because it's a part of me that I am not willing to lose. And then I'll just leave all the rest of the facts in the description below. Please do go and check it out. But let's move on to my story. So I no longer need my laptop. Primary school, oh god, actually, primary school, yeah. So when I was 4, so it must have been 2005, I started primary school. And I remember once being in school, I think it was, I remember I had some sort of assessment kind of thing, and it was basically assessing for autism. And actually, I found this out probably a year ago, but my mum said to me that I was not diagnosed with autism because the TAs, this was 2005, so it's not much of a surprise to me, but the TAs there believed that girls could not be autistic. I'm sorry, but that was fucked up, and I'm sorry for my language, but it honestly is. It frustrates me now so much, because I'm like, why do you only assume that boys can be autistic? It doesn't make any sense, does it? But that happened, and that was why I didn't get any support in primary school. I had the worst experience in primary school and secondary school because I did not get the support I needed. And so that happened in 2005, I think, maybe 2005, 2006 sort of time. That happened, and then in primary school, I was a very aggressive person, and I don't really know why, but I just remember being very physical with people and pushing them, and like, I don't know why this is so ingrained in my memory, but hitting people with books, it was just, that was who I was back then. It is not me now. It's in the past, and it's not a part of me now. I'm not really an aggressive person anymore. Some people may disagree, but please don't listen to them, because they are wrong, because at heart I mean well. And I don't really know why, but I think maybe it was because when I was 4, my mum was pregnant with my brother. And I guess that's kind of why I started defending myself, because maybe I didn't like the thought of having a brother, I don't know. He is a little dick now. He really is. He's so annoying. Does anybody else's brother really get on your nerves? Because mine sure does. He is 11 now, by the way. I remember when he was a baby, he used to sit on my prescription glasses. And I remember getting them from Tesco's as well. I don't know how I remember that. I just don't know. I still wear glasses to this day because my eyesight doesn't seem to get any better. I do actually have an astigmatism in this eye, I think. So that may be why. But I think the only reason why I was so aggressive with people is because they were aggressive with me first. So like, not like physically. I was actually pushed. I wasn't the only one that was aggressive, and I can definitely say that if anyone bullied me now, I would be onto them. And then when I decided on what secondary school I wanted to go to, I remember just wanting to get as far away from where I live as possible. So I ended up going to a school about 20 to 25 minutes away from here. And in year 8, I remember, this is actually very relevant to my diagnosis story, so I am going to say this. But in year 8, I remember that I started to self-harm, and I would make excuses, like if my mum saw them. I remember once I basically rubbed a ruler against my skin, and it created like obviously like a friction burn, but it was like bleeding as well. So that was pretty bad, and I remember lying to my mum about that and like telling her that I fell on the steps outside. And that was actually the beginning of my anxiety, I think, because I remember doing it because I felt anxious, I guess, like nervous, I don't really know. But that happened, and then in year 9 I started cutting, and I remember once itching in class after like I had cut the night before maybe, and I had my jumper and a blazer on, so it was quite hot, and they obviously had the heating on in the classroom as well. It was a computer room. It was one of the computer classrooms, like where there was computers all around, like the outside of the classroom, if you know what I mean. And then there were like tables in the middle, and I remember being sat next to one of my friends, and I was itching, and she was like, she just knew that I had cut. And so I thought, like, in my mind I must have been thinking, if I can tell her, then I can go and tell my best friend. So I did that at like break time or lunchtime, I think, and then my best friend told one of the teachers. It was called learning support at the time, but it's now called ALS, I believe. I don't actually know. I don't know what it's called now, because obviously I don't go to secondary school anymore. But at the time it was called learning support. And so my best friend went and told someone within the department, and she went and told a teacher, and then I think the teacher came and talked to me about it. Because of that, I started seeing the health and well-being advisor at secondary school, and that happened for 6 weeks, I think. She referred me to CAMHS, which is CAMHS. So CAMHS, CAMHS, stands for Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. It's basically a part of the NHS that helps with mental health. And the counsellor, I saw the CAMHS counsellor for about another 6 weeks, I think, and it was basically all about self-harm and how I felt and why I did it and stuff like that, and distraction techniques and things like that. And during this whole time, I had anxiety and I did not know it. This was in year 9, and I was also having panic attacks, and I didn't know for 2 full years that what I was having was anxiety and panic attacks. And then in year 10 I discovered it, and I kind of knew what I was dealing with, but I didn't know how to deal with it or anything like that. I didn't get any support from school or anything. And I remember from CAMHS I was referred back to my GP. Was it my GP, or I don't know, I might have been referred to the children's outpatient ward at the hospital. That was for like an ASD assessment, and ASD stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder, I'm pretty sure. And in August 2016 I was diagnosed with ASD, and so I would have been in year 10, so in year 10, I knew I was dealing with anxiety and panic attacks. I was having a lot of panic attacks at school. I was also diagnosed with ASD. And I remember, like, year 10 and year 11, like, so obviously, like, GCSE years, and it stressed me out a lot, because in year 10, I didn't do RE for that whole year, and then in year 11, I was thrown back into it. And I remember in year 10, I think I wasn't really in mainstream, so I did all of my work not in the actual school, but just in a separate block that wasn't, like, in the school. It was past, like, the PE block and all of the PE courts for, like, basketball, netball, those kind of things, and tennis courts as well, and football, and, like, you know, the AstroTurf for football. So I wasn't in mainstream for year 10, or I wasn't in mainstream at the end of year 10. Like, the last few terms, I was doing my work in a separate area. And then the first day of year 11, that place I had been going to wasn't there anymore, so I had to go back into mainstream. And I remember being so proud of myself that first day, and then for the rest of the days I was just like, yeah, this is okay, like, I'm doing fine. Not really doing fine because I keep having panic attacks, but I was okay. I didn't really have any friends that I remember of. Not in, like, I had quite a few friends within, like, the learning support department, but when it came to, like, people, like, actually in my classes, I didn't really have any friends. Throughout my GCSE years, I was not supported at all. Then for my exams, I was entitled to a reader, 25% extra time, and what's something else I was entitled to? A private room, maybe? I was definitely entitled to something else. And I remember needing a reader, but because I didn't have any support at all in school, I basically failed my English GCSE, so I'm now having to redo it in college, which is a bit of a sucker, because if my school hadn't been so rubbish, maybe I would have actually gotten a perfectly good grade for English, but I didn't, so I'm having to redo it. And to be honest, I'm blaming this all on the school, because it is all the school's fault, and it does look bad for the school. And that is pretty much all of my story. If you enjoyed hearing about everything that I've talked about in this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up in support of Autism Awareness Week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!